What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Kind of Punch Boxing News, man, and I want to talk about Sergey Kovalev. They interviewed David John Jackson, which is the former coach of Kovalev, and they asked him what was his reactions towards his ex-student being knocked out by Alvarez, and you know he said some interesting thing. He said, first of all, which was surprising, that he wasn't happy to hear about it. But that wasn't the first thing he said. You know what I'm saying? The first thing he said was, you know, he's not surprised that it happened. He said that Kovalev was a fighter that was difficult to work with, first of all. He said the first time he met him, he cussed him out. They got in a cussing frenzy or whatnot, and then he was going to quit many times dealing with Kovalev, and he didn't do it because of his mad respect for Kathy Duva, and associates at main events. So, for her, he did that, so it wasn't necessarily for Sergey. Sergey was a guy that came from Russia that knew everything, according to David John Jackson, and he didn't want to learn anything new. He didn't want to really train hard, and he's a front runner, meaning he's the kind of guy that he likes to get you out of there quickly. If you stand in front of him, he'll hurt you. But if you drag him into deep waters, meaning if you get him into later rounds, he's going to burn out because he's not conditioned. And I don't think that's like a genetic thing. I think that's more of a personality thing. He's just not that type of dude. His idea is to knock people out. And I think when he went in there and he did, kill a guy, I'll get to that later. I think that gave him a sense of invincibility. I think when he did that to that guy, he actually thought that, hey, I could go in there and knock out anybody, including Ward and other elite fighters. He almost knocked out Bernard, but Bernard hung in there with him to the end. And I think that's really discretion up to the referee on how much punishment they want a fighter to take too. So, but still, Kovalev really only had one objective, is to knock out a guy, to be the crusher. Well, the crusher got crushed. He got crushed. He got destroyed. And I know that took a lot out of him mentally. Maybe the loss from Ward took some out of him, maybe. I don't think like other people that, it just crushed him that much. Well, mentally, I don't think it was Ward that did it. I think the Ward fight, made him a lot bitter in certain situations, which broke him mentally. But it really, if anything, it should have motivated him. Back to David John Jackson, though, he said, when he was winning, everything was good. Because remember, with David John Jackson, this guy was undefeated, and he went far. He took out, he beat Hopkins with the help of David John Jackson. And he had, and Sergey had this mentality. It was more like arrogance, and I think it's like a devo, or like a diva, mentality, because, he didn't want to train hard. He thought he was the one responsible solely for him becoming where he's at in his career. And, David John Jackson was like, well, wait a minute, no one else had anything to do with that. You know what I'm saying? So he thought it was all about him. So, that was one of those things. So when you get arrogant, and you get the big head, and you really don't respect the people that trained you. And you can tell that easily from, when his first defeat with Ward. And I think he won that first fight, me personally, because I think the fight was close enough. He took 6 rounds. Ward took the next 6. Okay. Well, Kovalev got the knockdown, and I think that the knockdown was the deciding factor on who won that fight. So, but still, that fight was still a close fight. It wasn't a situation where it was just a straight robbery, where, Ward clearly lost, and then, they just robbed Kovalev, and, and then Kovalev went off, kind of like Johnny Tapia did in the Paulie Ayala 2 fight back in the day. If you guys watched boxing back then, but you can tell his appreciation that he had none for David John Jackson after he lost, because after that, he didn't blame it on the judges or anything like that. He blamed it on the trainer. which then John Jackson, Jackson was like, dude, uh, you got to come see me because he felt disrespected and unappreciated, and he should have felt that way because you as long as you're winning, you're good. Everything's all intact. But then as soon as you lose, you go back to Russia, and if I'd have had a Russian ref or a Russian coach, I would have been able to do this. I would have been I would have been successful. And I'm like, well, if you fell, you won the fight. How is it your your trainer's fault? You know what I'm saying? So it made no sense. So that's just a sign of bitterness there. And it's really karma because it came back to bite him because he didn't put in the necessary work. Because if he learned anything, I mean anything from the Ward 2 fight, it was conditioning. Because he burned himself out. He was out of gas. And I agree with David John Jackson now is because, of how he explained how Kovalev used to train and his refusal to push to the limits. When you push to the limits in training, it's going to show in the performance. And then since he burned out in the last half of that second fight, really the first fight he burned out because he kind of just slowed down. That's when Ward was given the opportunity to land those points and win those rounds. So yeah, it's Kovalev's fault for not really pushing the pedal to the metal and making his training count for him. Being arrogant, thinking he knows everything, thinking he was already the best, thinking that he didn't have to do that and do this, and he blamed his trainers for it. But guess what? You can't blame your judges or your trainers for this now because he got what he was asking for. Like he claimed that, if I had these type of trainers, I would have done this type of performance. So he threw all the responsibility on his trainers, not himself. And that's the problem I had with him. But again, I agree with David John Jackson. Kovalev, I believe he's done. I'm not sure. But if I were him, I would be. But that's solely up to him or how much he has left mentally. Because I think if he hasn't learned from this fight, he won't learn. That's the point. So he should retire because he'll never learn that if he blames other people instead of himself, he'll never get better. You know what I'm saying? Because it's never my fault. It's someone else's fault. So that's why I lost. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's my take on it, man. That's what I think about it. Think about the whole ordeal. I want to add one thing about Kovalev though, and this is what made me look at Kovalev sideways personally. He killed a guy, right? I think about Boom Boom Mancini. Boom Boom Mancini beat Jong Moon, the Korean fighter. He killed him. He never fought again after that. Other fighters that had similar situations where they resulted in killing someone, it affected them mentally because of a loss. The thing that got me is Kovalev never showed any type of remorse. He was more like Drago. You know what I'm saying? If he dies, he dies. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? And I just thought that was real strange. Like, yeah, you killed a guy. And it's almost like, you didn't show remorse. So if you don't really show remorse, you can't help but to show, pride in it. You know what I'm saying? I never heard him boast about it. No, I haven't. But, I'm not going to say that. But then again, I never seen any remorse. So it's easy to assume that, yeah, man, he's probably proud of that. You know what I'm saying? He killed a guy, So anyway, that's what I think about it. So you look at a person's character when they do something like that and show no remorse. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it's double karma for that reason. It's a blessing that he didn't get like seriously hurt. Like his other opponent, was killed. So, I guess hopefully he learns something. Let's put it that way. And if he doesn't, he shouldn't be fighting. And that's it. You guys tell me what you think. Please comment, below. I would like to hear you guys' discussions. Please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunched. Peace.